Welcome to the Healing Hour, and I'm your host, Tyhson, Banighen, the energy detective, the one and only transformer. Some people call me the illuminator, helping you bring you into the light. Remember who you are, get out of your own way, take back your power, stand in your truth, and deliver your awesome gifts to the world. And I have my good friend, a renowned astrologer and mystic in her own right, as a co-host, the one and only Kory Varlen, and we're here for the next hour to answer all your questions on dowsing, energy healing, what's up with planet Earth, what are the energies flooding the planet, what's going on in this major time of planetary, well, actually galactic transformation. And if you're stuck and need some help or just want to have a talk with us, it's toll free in North America, 1-866-369-7464. Give us a call. Lines are open for the next hour. And in the meantime, we're going to chat away and have a conversation waiting for you to be brave enough to phone in, because your question, I assure you, is probably the same question that somebody else wants to ask, but is a little afraid to ask. So here we go. So Kory, you were saying before the show that we are being flooded by lots of cosmological energy. Is that correct?
That is so true, Tyhson. And first of all, it's wonderful to see you, my friend.
Yes, and absolutely.
See your sweet face. What I did want to bring to the attention of the world today, for those of us who still don't know about this, is that there is a major solar flare on its way as we speak. Major solar flare. It's of the X class category, which is the most dangerous. And we are really, really lucky, because the last time this happened, the last major solar flare that struck the Earth was in 2003. And these solar flares, we have what are called minimum and maximum sun activity. I'm sure you've heard of that.
Right.
They happen every 11 years. It's an 11-year cycle. And so we're really lucky
master number.
Yeah, and we're really lucky that the next big one isn't slated to hit until 2025, but there is one on its way. And this is probably a cousin to the big one that's coming in 2025. So I think everybody needs to be prepared today for their GPS and their phones and their computers to bring forth some static. So if we all of a sudden get cut off our transmission today, it's the solar flares problem, not ours.
All right. Yes. Well, I've got my computer all backed up, and we have, so if it crashes this time around, we don't have to redo it from scratch. So come on, solar flare.
Yeah. Well, a lot of this is due to the magnetic field activity on the sun. And why I'm mentioning this today is that, a lot of people don't really understand why astrology works. And quite frankly, the more I look into it, the more I'm just befuddled as along with everybody else. Because, it talks about fields, and what the solar flares are all about are magnetic fields. And it just kind of reminds me of what most of the physicists are talking now about, dark matter and fields. And so I just wanted to highlight today some of the more important energetic fields that are influencing us. And I'm going to bring forth a number of special birthdays. So for people listening, I'm going to be highlighting a couple of very special birthdays for any year. Any year you can be born from age 10 up to 110. If your birthday lands on the dates I'm going to give you, today is a very, very special date. And then later on, I'm going to give birth dates for the entire week before us. And those are going to be birthdays that are going to be very specially influenced by these magnetic fields in the coming week. Tyhson.
Okay, and also you can help people understand their power time with their moon rising too, right? Which is really something that's really valuable to know. I mean, everybody wants to know what their stars are, what's my birth chart, but they forget about the moon. And we're all Looney Tune in the sense that we are greatly influenced by the vibration of the moon. Probably in many ways, it rocks our boat far quicker and deeper, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually than, say, our sun sign. So if you want to know what that moon sign and how it's going to rock your boat and when, then this is the time to phone in toll free at 1-866-369 and find out how the moon is going to rock you. I mean, I love that, Cradle of the Moon, the song, that it is the cradle of the moon. We are being cradled by the moon. The more we understand that how the moon and us are related
Yes. So
emotionally.
true. So true, Tyson. And I love your analogy of, being rocked like a boat, because that's truly what we are. We're riding up and down on these cosmic waves. And we are in the new moon cycle still. And so people who are born during the new moon, as I've been explaining, when I come and visit here every week, the relationship between the sun and the moon in your birth chart is key. It's just critical. It's critical to all the major timing in your life. And so when you know your moon cycle, when you know where the moon is and in relationship to the sun when you were born, it's a real key into your energy, into your enthusiasm, into your pessimism. It's just truly a cosmic key. So I'm happy to look up for anyone who calls. I'm happy to look up your sun-moon relationship. And for all those people who aren't in a relationship, trust me, this is the most important relationship you will ever have.
That's right. You and the moon, right?
Between the moon and the sun, that is the key relationship in your life. And as an astrologer, I know many astrologers who do take this into consideration, because in terms of predictive work and timing, it's just key. I call that, as you know, your power days, right? You got 3 of them every month.
Interesting thing about that, I was just, I just had this flashing realization that in the Knights Templar trip through Europe, where we visit the Mary churches, which are really not Mother Mary, they're dedicated by the Knights Templar and built for Mary Magdalene. Every one of them has 2 spires, and one of them has a symbol of the moon, and beside it, the symbol of the sun. So there was a great understanding, certainly through the medieval times and onward, of the power and importance of the relationship, both of the moon and of the sun, not only in building and structures and aligning them cosmologically, which was what the Knight Templars were doing, was literally ringing the bell in each stone as they placed it. So the whole cathedral vibrates as one harmonic aligned to the moon and the stars in which it was created, or when it was initiated or blessed. Actually, it would be when the cornerstone, when the cornerstone is placed and rung by pounding it with a mallet 3 times, that vibrational frequency would set the cornerstone aligned with the sun and the moon. And so this is important on every single level. It's not just you, my dear, and us. It's an ancient technology that's worldwide that we will find in every sacred site on the planet, is this understanding, right?
Yes. So true. And I think one of the reasons why our society is going through a major chaos collapse is because of the music that people are now listening to and have been exposed to, I have to say, since, I hate to say this, but since the 50s, because there is an incredible energy of discordance that comes along with rock and roll and even jazz, in particular jazz. And again, it's sound frequency, it's all sound vibration. And there are numerous people, and you're one of them, who are now doing healing with sound. And I know for a fact that this was done in the temples and in the pyramids of Egypt. I have friends who actually went to Egypt, and even being around the pyramids can change your vibration for life. I had a friend, Tyson, this is just I'm not going to mention any names here, but I have a friend who was trying to get pregnant for 7 years, and her husband took her to Egypt, and she conceived within 3 weeks.
Oh, there you are. So if you want to get pregnant,
Well, it was what they wanted and what they had longed for. And again, when you put out that, that thought form, that, thoughts are things, as we know, and you align yourself and you put yourself in the right geomagnetic energy position on the earth, miracles can happen.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I was interrupting you saying the same thing, which is, alignment of the person and that sacred site, it just magnifies your intention so that it manifests into reality much quicker. And of course, that's why working in a group of, say, 12 around 1, using sacred geometry, that's 4 times 3, or 3 or more gathered, there am I. When you create an energy unified field, right, then magic happens. And I just want to say for a moment something around that. There was a call on Saturday arranged by Margaret in Australia, a good friend of mine who's worked with Divine Mother energies like I have. She's an opera singer and she also does light language. And she had her teacher on, and the whole call was around, all right, we need to come together as warriors of light and change the energy collectively. And there were 66 people on the call, and some magic happened. It was just like amazing. And her teacher, who taught her the light language, was on. And I'm going to swear, but that's okay. She was halfway through the channeling and said, I can't make this shit up, right? This is incredible, because it was flowing through her. She was so excited because it was all new to her. And the underlining thing that came through is we are in the midst of a mind control experiment on planet Earth. And she used the analogy of a Monopoly game, right? And all the players know where all the major, buildings are and possessions and all that. And as soon as anybody else figures out, they change the game. But the point that she was making is when we get into our heart, which is, by the way, part of what happens when you align with the moon and the stars, is you start to come from your heart rather than your brain, because you're becoming synchronistically aligned through your heart with the greater whole, which is the divine. Then magic starts to happen when you do that. And then collectively, like with the sacred site, the field builds, right? Yeah. And you have 66 people, then you're creating a field, a Merkaba, which is as powerful as an intergalactic UFO. And then the magic started to happen. Oh, and the guidance was incredible. And the message was basically, at this level, with the key about opening your heart and love, you can manifest into reality anything you want. And those that are in control of the old paradigm have no access to that field whatsoever, because the key that opens the door is love. And that's not part of their understanding. They have no concept of love whatsoever. It's only control. So for you listening to this call, and liberation is your goal, or becoming a sovereign human being, I want to encourage you that you are on the right path. And this cloud ship, call it Mother Earth, is going to make it. I guarantee you. It may not look like it right now, but we're going to make it. Anyway, that's enough of that rant. I'll get off the soapbox, and we're back. You can call in toll free in North America, 1-866-369-7464. Find out what your moon rising is. Find out how this solar flare could be affecting your astrological birth sign, and what your birthday, what are those power days for you, both from the moon and in your birth chart. So give us a clue. Okay, so all this energy is flowing in. Do we have any estimated time of arrival?
Well, I was just checking before we went online live today, Tyhson, and it's headed for us, I think, by mid-afternoon. So we should be starting to feel the effects now. And the alignment, especially today, that I'm most excited to share is an alignment between the planet Mercury, which, as you know, is the great messenger of the gods, Hermes, and Jupiter, the big guy, right? Zeus in mythology. Jupiter gives us wonderful sense of confidence and a feeling of optimism, and we're all experiencing that today. So no matter what your planetary pattern looks like, it doesn't matter, because this is the generic flow that we all get to enjoy today. And I just love it, because for people born in the early part of Cancer, so if you're born around the 21st of June or the 22nd, they're just being lit up today. And I wanted to really pass that message on today for all of you lucky Cancerians, because we've been talking about Cancer a lot. Well, I have, because remember last week I talked about some of those key traits.
Yeah.
You remember that? Yep. And I just wanted to mention also, if you are a Pisces, if you're born around the 18th or 19th of February, you're getting a direct alignment to Jupiter, to Zeus. And so those particular birth dates right now are they're really getting lit up. And so with the solar flare on its way, it should be quite a sensational day. So there's no reason whatsoever for excuses today to feel depressed, because you're being just flooded with inspiration, creativity, and most importantly, with optimism.
Yeah, I guess Jupiter is really jovial energy, isn't it? It's really like it's so big and so powerful and such a big heart. It's pretty hard to be grumpy around that sort of energy.
Well, and here's the beauty of Jupiter. Wherever Jupiter is activating, whatever part of your astrological blueprint is activating, is creating the sense of largesse, the sense of like, I can do, like the can do spirit. So I really encourage people to get their charts updated, or if you've never had a chart done, to make an investment in yourself because Jupiter, Jupiter is about investment. Jupiter is about spending money, spending your time, making an investment in your life because Jupiter is going to show you really the area where you're going to get as we say, the biggest bang for your buck.
That's exactly what I was going to say, exactly those words. So, yeah.
Yeah. So true.
Wow. In the show notes of how to arrange a reading with the one and only Kory Varlen will be in the show notes. So take advantage of that. And if you need your butt kicked in order to get from where you are to where you want to be, there's also a link to book a free session with me too and get you started down the road of whatever recovery or whatever you want to move through.
Wow. How generous of you, Tyhson. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a 15-minute. In 15 minutes, we can figure out what's going on. And yeah, I'm really excited. I have some new clients. I have from all over, which is really quite exciting for me. I'm having somebody from Mexico, and we're dealing with the big baddies. So if you got any big baddies in your life, and what I mean by big baddies, entities, discarnate beings, curses, all that yucky stuff, that you see on TV and get overwhelmed by, or the horror shows.
Yeah.
We can clean that up pretty easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And so we can deal with that sort of stuff. And also, if you're in a love relationship and you're just overwhelmed by your guy who's really not satisfying you on whatever level, financially or otherwise, we can help straighten that out as well. So what I'm telling you is stop being stuck. There's new energy flow coming in.
You're here.
Energy, take advantage. It's like riding the wave, it's like surfing. Take advantage of the cosmic energy to change your life and your world. So book a time for with either one of us, or even better, both of us. So there you are.
So Tyhson, you were talking about relationships, and when I uploaded my latest video to Instagram on Friday, I was talking about relationships because the energy right now, especially with Jupiter, is affecting the early Virgos out there as well. So I'm going to give another birth date. So everybody, if you're born around August 24th, 23rd, 24th, you're getting the full impact of Jupiter, and it's truly affecting your relationships. And so if there's challenges in your domestic daily routines, it's time to take a look at it because Jupiter makes things big. And that's what we always know about Jupiter. It's not good, it's not bad. It just makes things big. You cannot not see what Jupiter is talking about in your natal energy pattern.
It blows things up, good, bad, and ugly. Absolutely. There's no hiding.
There's no hiding with Monsieur Jupiter.
So which is exciting because it means change and transformation is in the air. And if you have the courage to deal with it, what could be better than that? Nobody wants to be stuck in their life. So remember that this is a live talk show. So we're talking.
We are talking, right. And speaking of talking, I want to go back to Mercury, which is all about communication and talking. And no matter what language we are speaking here today, Mercury is a universal language of just connection. And I want to have a shout out to all those Capricorns, early Capricorns. Please listen. If you're born around December 23rd, December 24th, Mercury has a lot to say to you right now. And again, it may be coming in from your relationship. So listen to the people around you who love you and who want to give you feedback. In fact, if you are a Capricorn, or if you have any planets around early Capricorn, I would encourage you to encourage your loved ones to give you feedback. It's a wonderful time and to give you wonderful, precious, invaluable feedback, because that's what Mercury does when it loves you. It gives you good feedback.
So I was thinking about this, if you're listening to the show as a podcast after the fact, you think, oh, well, I missed that show. None of this is relevant to me. It's not true. We're broadcasting here on every Monday at the same time at 1 p.m. Pacific time, but we're talking about energies that just don't come and go in a blink of an eye. We're talking about energies and cycles that have some longevity to them. And so it's worth your while to know that some of these energies will be around for more than a couple of days. Now, I know the moon cycle is much quicker and faster, and why it'd be really beneficial for you to get that really clear in your head about when it's good time to manifest and when it's the time to sow and when it's the time to reap. And that really comes from starting to know when those 3 power days are. I mean, the old way of doing this that I was taught is that you just get a lunar calendar and then the new moon, you plant the seed and all the rest, which I know is in and of itself is very, very powerful.
Mhm.
What Kory is saying is much more, is another level to it. She's saying, no, another level to this. She's
Yeah.
saying there's 3 power days, and if you plant the seed during that power time, then the harvest is going to be even more intense. So it's worthwhile knowing when those 3 days are in your cycle. Am I right, Kory?
That's right. And there are generic cycles that we all know about, like the new moon cycle, the full moon, part of that. And it's like in astrological counseling, we know that there are cycles that are based on the moon, which is the 29 and a half day cycle. There's the solar cycle based on the sun making,
Yeah.
well, us making a trip around the sun every year. That's the 365-day cycle.
And
We
a
have
birthday.
we
Yeah.
have the Mars cycle. Mars takes 2 years to orbit the sun. That's another generic cycle. The one that I think is most famous that people know about, though, is the Saturn cycle, which is a 28 to 29-year cycle. And you may have heard of this, Tyson, the Saturn return.
Uh-huh. It sounds scary to me.
Well, it definitely stirs up demons, because the Saturn return astrologically is something that people, it's kind of like an eclipse. They kind of are afraid of it, because what Saturn does, Saturn, unlike Jupiter, Saturn was known as Chronos, the timekeeper in ancient times. And Saturn often, carried that scythe, and he was often associated with death because, we didn't know about Pluto, 2000 years ago, right? And Pluto is the planet of transformation and death. But before we knew about Pluto, we always knew about Saturn. And so for the ancients, Saturn was the planet that was the furthest one out there. And so Saturn represented basically boundaries and, the end of things. Like you couldn't go further than Saturn. And so astrologically, Saturn's always had a rather grim, kind of the grim reaper energy.
Right.
And so
The image of with the scythe, right?
yeah. And so, but what's really cool is when you look at anybody's life cycle, usually around 28, 29, people grow up, right?
Isn't that amazing?
Like they get their shit together. Like that's what happens under a Saturn return. And so every 28 to 29 years, so it happens at 28, 29, and it happens around age 54. People just, sorry, 56, 57, people really start to see their life coming together. And if they don't, that's when that's when they need to go seek out some therapy and counseling.
Right. Yeah.
If you're not on track by 56, 57, we've got to do some major intervention in your life.
Yeah, and true. And it's around 30 where people stop beating themselves up and say, oh, I just love myself for the way I am. I'm an unfinished, I have unfinished business with regard to myself, but I'm just going to love myself the way it is and know that there's things I need to work on. Sort of a major change from, the 20s of, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? And, it's a time to settle down and love yourself more unconditionally.
Have you heard of that? Have you heard of the 27-year cycle?
No, do tell. What's the 27-year cycle?
That's often connected with death, people dying around age 27. Very young movie stars and musicians often die around age 27. It's quite a well-known, people talk about it a lot, especially in the press. If you can make it, if you're high on drugs and cocaine and
well, I was just going to say
crazy stuff.
Too much fire energy in their system, and so it's
based on the moon. When the moon, by a certain what we call progression, when that moon placement at your birth comes back It comes back at age 27. And it's interesting because more women, get married, they get engaged, they have a baby. 27 for women is great. 27 for men is often very difficult.
So is that 27 times two? Like, is it every 27 years? So
yeah, every 27 years, the moon will return to what it was when you were born. So if we took a snapshot of your chart at your birth, and then we looked 27 years forward, we'd see the moon come home. We'd see it return. That's why the moon is just, for me, it's just been fascinating. I've just been entranced by what it can do and how it times everything. Just amazing. I'm actually working on research now relating to, I don't want to talk too much about it, but it actually predicts death. It's a very powerful project I'm dealing with because I'm trying to figure out for people who don't want to buy life insurance when it's time to buy life insurance. Right. And many famous astrologers have worked this out.
Wow. So, what's coming to me is if you don't know your lunar cycle, then it's a bit of Looney Tunes in your life. And who wants to have a life full of Looney Tunes? I mean, maybe humor, but there also be like Wile E. Coyote. It may hurt a lot, right? So anyway, this is a phone-in talk show when nobody's phoning in. So, be brave, phone in, toll free, North America, 1-866-36 numbers on your screen. If you want to phone in internationally, you can do that too. 51 for Canada, 250-803-2480. And if you just want to pop on and join us, just type into Zoom joining. It's TYHSON, which is Tyhson is my name. Or you can type in my phone number, which is how you get me on one apps, 250-803-2480. And guess what? You're right here. And they'll be able to bring you on and you can ask those amazing questions that you want to get answered. All right. So solar flares, energies coming in from the big guy, right? The sun, the big guy.
Yeah. And right now, today, the moon is in Leo. And so that's really intensifying, I think, the possibility that there's going to be some pretty serious meltdowns, especially with GPS. I'd be using careful. There was one back in the late 19th century. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it just totally fried the eastern seaboard. And that was when they were still using, remember, telegraphs?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, and there was one that fried out all the electrical circuits on the eastern seaboard of the United States of America. So yeah, I think there's a real concern, and I don't think whoever they is, got it all figured out of how to deal with these solar flares.
No.
Literally, the energy as it intensifies, and we are going up to the big one that you're talking about. Like, we have the one coming up for earthquakes, and we have the big one coming up for the solar flare. And there's really no way to prepare for it because our electromagnetic energy that runs our planet and our electricity, it will just be overwhelmed. So it could fry everything.
Yeah, I really caution people not to be, not to try to scare people, but I think it just makes sense to have, good supply of water on hand and have, your gas propane ready for cooking. What are you going to do? Are you going to heat your food or make your coffee or tea in the morning? Like, you need to have a backup plan. And this is the world we live in now. Seriously, like, you have to know that the whole global system now is actually quite fragile.
Yeah, well, we don't want to think about people waking up in the morning without coffee. That'd be a horrible world, right?
Not the world I want to live in.
No way, right? Certainly not in this area where I live. Oh my God, everybody would just be miserable.
Tyhson, I have to share a little secret with you. It's not a secret. I actually got off coffee for 10 years. I went cold turkey for 10 years.
And what did you do for a substitute? Did you do the chicory thing? Somebody kept doing chicory in my coffee, 50-50. I have to spit stuff out.
Well, I remember the day, and I just remember thinking, I'm really addicted to this stuff. And I do my French press version. And I just said to myself, no more, no mas. And it was around the time I moved to South America. And I think I just drank more juice, but I was totally addicted.
Well, I have to say, if I'm in a hot country, then I think very little coffee, and I'm going to drink more juice and eat more fruit. So I understand. And the buzz from the coffee will knock me flat if I'm in a hot climate. So you're right. The body doesn't want it. I think there's something about us in the northern climes that, anyway, that's how I feel about it. I certainly don't want coffee when I'm in the tropics. I just don't.
Yeah.
Rarely do I want it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's something though to the fact that coffee is a great stimulant, and I think there's been some research that's been done now. I'm trying to remember the man's name. He's been doing a lot of research into health and eating and psychedelics. He was talking about how he went off coffee for 3 months and how he really noticed the difference. And he said he was addicted and he could feel the difference, like the cravings you get after like 48 hours if you aren't recaffeinated. That in itself is pretty, substantial.
Well,
Anyways, I want to get back to some of these special birth dates I was telling you about.
right, special birthdays.
Right.
Well,
So
so listen up, everybody, because you're being mentioned here. So
that's right. So now the moon is in Leo today, and what the moon is doing in Leo is it's passing in front of Venus and Mars. So if you actually go outside and look at the sky tonight, and you will see that the moon is to the left of Mars and Venus. It's quite pretty. You can actually look and see this. And what that does is it highlights birthdays born around the middle of August. So if you are a Leo and you're born around the 15th or the 16th or the 17th of August, it's going to be quite a, shall we say, amorous week ahead for you.
I'll say that again. I just about missed that. I got some stars in my eyes. So say that again.
Well, people born around the 15th, 16th, and 17th of August are sort of channeling this wonderful amorous energy of Mars and Venus. And when Mars and Venus come together in the sky, especially in Leo, it stimulates our love needs. It makes us want to connect. It makes us more like, stroke me, baby. I want to feel your touch. It's very, and I would say for all of us, if you know where Leo is in your chart, that whole area is getting lit up and it wants to be touched.
Wow.
So check out your chart for where Leo is.
I wondered what was going on. But anyway, that's way too much information. But yes, so certainly Venus and Venus rising as the morning star is really, really important to the Mayans. They really see, actually, in every sacred site of the Mayans, they have a Venus platform, which is where they then tune and do ceremony. It's sort of like their telegraph or their psychic.
I was up this morning to watch Venus rising. Venus was rising on the horizon here in Edmonton around 8 o'clock this morning, and it was just beautiful.
Wow, yeah, and we have a morning star medicine wheel in our front yard, which is also, when you think of it, it's a Mayan morning star, then it is really dedicated to Venus as well. So,
and actually, the next couple of days, if you get up around 8 o'clock, you will see Venus rising. And as the moon moves further into the zodiac, you won't have the light of the moon interfering. And so, yeah, get up at 8 o'clock, and you'll see Venus rising this week.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole. I'm trying to remember the name of it, and I've interviewed her in the wellness show, and I need to go back because she just connected with me again. And for years, I followed it, and it's really just astrology from the point of view of, and I found that absolutely fascinating. The charts would come out of where to find all the stars, and what does it mean? Because the original, well, maybe not, but certainly it all started by looking into the sky and what was going on and charting that, right? This is the root source of astrology. So I love that point of view of it, keeping it really what do I see in the sky? What does that mean to me? What can I see and what can I experience? And I'll look that up so I can share that. It's a different way of looking at astrology. And I followed that for many, 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 many years and enjoyed it, right? So yeah, seeing the morning star, there's something about Venus and seeing her just before she gets overshadowed by the moon, by the sun coming up is just, I don't know,
yes.
Just tingles.
It is. It just reinforces our connection to the cosmos. And unfortunately for so many people, of course, this doesn't affect you, Tyhson, because you live out in a very nice, rural, beautiful area. But, for city dwellers, I mean, I have friends in New York who haven't seen the night sky in probably decades. I mean, they just they live in this concrete jungle, and the only light they see, are the neon lights from the street lights. It's scary.
It is scary. I remember as a kid, we had a couple visiting us from New York and a little boy, and we had a campfire at the end of the road. This was in Calscar Robson area in the Columbia area. And he kept sticking his head in and saying, smoke, smoke, fire. He's never, ever, ever seen a fire, right? A real fire. It was so excited by that experience. It was not part of what he'd ever experienced in his life. Wow.
I remember my first trip from Mexico. I was in Mazatlan, and I was crossing over on the ferry to Baja. It's called Baja, California, but it's really Mexico. And I took this beautiful ferry ride for about 12 hours. And I remember when I crossed the Sea of Cortez and I looked up, and I couldn't believe how beautiful the night sky was, because I was out in the middle of the Sea of Cortez and there was no light pollution, and it was just breathtakingly gorgeous.
Did you see any whales? Because that north of that is a birthing of
That's right.
Whales. Flew in there just to go and be with the gray whales. Oh my goodness, it was amazing.
I actually used to teach. I used to teach down there. I was for many years. I used to be an ESL teacher, and I've traveled the world as an ESL teacher because I love language and I love English and I love teaching people how to use the language correctly.
Right.
And the Baja is just beautiful for people who have never been down there. And like you say, the whales migrate down there to birth their calves. It's a magical place, the Baja.
Yeah.
Magical.
I spend most of my time in the Yucatan, which is a whole different climatic zone and more jungle, and it's full of sacred sites and the Mayan civilization. So I spend most of my time there, but I did go and experience the whale because I'm into whale. I like
Good. Yeah. Do you know, I've also been to the Yucatan many times, and I had a mystical experience in Chichen Itza.
Chichen Itza. Now there's a place I've been like 4 or 5 times. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that's a power. That's like where, the pyramids, that's a power zone on the earth.
Absolutely. And the legend is that the 12 crystal skulls will actually come together at Chichen Itza.
Yeah.
I was there with my little crystal skull. His name is Rainbow Serpent Joe. And my shaman that I work with, Miguel Angel, said there's a shaman that's going to maybe show up, and we don't have cell phones, so he may or may not show up. And we're in the central plaza there. Mm-hmm. And here comes this shaman with his backpack and brings out a crystal skull which is like this big. And Miguel says, well, Tyhson has a little skull. And he says, and to see him with this little tiny skull, I mean, he gets to be his skull, right? This big skull to hold. And he's got this little one, and it's just like it's his baby, right? Oh, yeah. He's looking into his eyes, and he said, so what have you learned from this little one? It was really quite an interesting experience, and then taught us how to work with the crystal skull, the one that he brought. And it was an amazing one of these experiences that just have to be in the right place at the right time to happen. So I learned a lot about crystal skulls from him. Mm-hmm. And apparently there's like 6 to 8 crystal skull carriers in the Chichen Itza area. So a lot of crystal skull energy in that area. And it is legend has it that in that plaza, the 12 ancient ones will come together at some point in the not too distant future. So there you are, another 12 around 1.
Yeah, I love the power of numbers. I'm currently studying a new, it's sort of an updated version of harmonic astrology that was brought to the world's attention about 100 years ago in Germany. And I'm studying what are called harmonics in astrology, and it all is amazing. It works with prime numbers, and it looks at, your 11th harmonic, your 22nd harmonic. We're up to like David Cochrane is really pioneering. He's really pioneering some of this new vibrational astrology, and it's just fascinating to be able to look at someone's chart through this harmonic overlay to see what are your your highest harmonics and what that means. It's a whole new overlay for people interested in astrology and for looking at more, I'd say, advanced layers of what you're capable of.
Yeah, and the planetary, well, we have the harmonic convergence. So those waves of energies are on all levels, right?
All levels, all levels. And they actually, and now what's happening is we're finding the meaning. We're doing research and we're finding the meanings of these harmonics. And so like a harmonic, like an 11 harmonic or a 12 harmonic, like you talk about, dividing the circle into 12, or master numbers like 22. There's a reason why those are master numbers: 11,
Yeah, well,
22, 33, 66. Those all have very significant meanings.
absolutely. Well, that's what Paco Voltaire was into, right? He was the master time traveler. And some say that, that's actually what he did. He actually didn't die, he ascended. And not only did he ascend, but the whole Mayan group that was around him from Chichen Itza also graduated with him because he was the master timekeeper. And Jose Agrellas, who felt that he was the incarnation of Paco Voltaire, created a book, which I just love. It's one of these big coffee books. And in it is the harmonics you're talking about, where you can see the wave. He started out the wave according to the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching and showed out how all this fits together. And you can see the wave of civilization.
Right.
So each part of the wave, you can see where the next civilization rose and then fell, where the next wave picked up as you go around the world. Amazing work. He was an absolute genius, right?
Yeah.
Time avatar. So yeah, all these master numbers have so much information in them. Well, that's the Sofigri. I can't even say the word, but Sofigri frequencies too, right?
Yeah.
How do you say that word? But anyway, the original sound vibrational frequencies at the ends got cut off in this new modern music that you're talking about. Why? Since the 50s, there isn't no harmonics in the music because the original sound was clipped on both ends electronically. So now we don't have the original vibrational frequency that it matches to the energetics of the body through the sound. And if you want to know what that sounds like or what it feels like, just ring a Tibetan bell. And it's almost impossible to know when that sound ends because it sounds
exactly
ring into infinity, right?
Yeah, I know. I have to, again, I encourage people to take a social media diet or, fast, because we're being bombarded. No, we're just so bombarded by this cacophony of frequencies that are so discordant, that's so disruptive to our brainwaves. And anybody over the age of 45 knows what I'm talking about here, because it's pretty obvious. And people, in their 50s and 60s for sure know this, because you can see the damage that's been done to our ability to focus, to concentrate. Like, people just can't do that anymore like they used to. They can't, Tyson.
Yeah. Yeah, and our attention span when we're producing videos is getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Like, and even this show, oh my God, an hour-long show, I can't possibly, stick around for an hour. There might be something important on social media that I would miss or whatever. But, sometimes it's just good to sit in a chair and listen to a podcast or a show and follow it all the way through and let the magic happen. We're into quick fixes everywhere. Quick, dirty fixes.
Yeah, and it's too bad because, as you were saying earlier, with this time and being a master of time, we just don't live long enough to see I think the reality of who we are and what we're dealing with, and the fact that, on the one hand, we say, oh, time, everything is just so slow. And then we all often say the reverse, right? Everything's so fast. And I think it's just really hard to get a handle on the bigger perspective of our lives and what this is, what's it all about, Alfie?
Yeah, the rush to get somewhere which is nowhere.
Yeah.
When you're nowhere, in the sense of just being still, you're actually somewhere where you want to be. So it's a counter. Like, we're so busy running on the treadmill that we miss the possibility of being fully in the moment.
And when I was younger, sorry to interrupt, but this is really important. I need to say this. When I was a younger astrologer, I used to do long forecasts for people. And I would have people that wouldn't come back to see me for 10, 20 years because I would do these long forecasts. And as I'm getting more aware of what life is really all about, which is living in the moment, I have stopped that because if you truly grasp and take on, the essence of what is just right around you, you don't have to worry about your future. Your future will take care of itself. What
Absolutely.
what you have to be concerned about is, are you maximizing your potential right now?
This moment. Yeah, that's really true. I mean, I started off as a psychic. I would go blah, 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 and blow everybody away and realize, I don't
Yeah,
do. So I started to do the tarot. So I would say to somebody, well, if you really want to know and you're asking me, then I'll do a tarot. And so I'd start with a very, very simple 4-card layout and then say, well, is that
lovely,
enough? And if they say,
lovely.
no, I want more, we go deeper and deeper and deeper because too much information can, for some people, they're not ready for it and it's too overwhelming. So you're right. If we can focus on what's showing up in the now moment, right? Then that's really what needs to be worked on. So if you work, so my clients, my one-to-one clients, which they pay me $997 to work with me for 4 hours over 1 month, 1 hour a week. The first question I always ask them at the beginning of the session, so what's up? Because what's up in this moment is what we need to deal with.
Exactly.
Everything else is
Yep,
irrelevant.
exactly.
Everything else is irrelevant.
Yeah. No, you have to start where you're at. And it's like I was talking about last week. One of my one of my favorite sayings from Carl Jung is, unearned wisdom is a dangerous thing. Like you can't give people too much information. Like what you're saying, that sounds wonderful the way you've structured your consultations over time.
Yeah, I think it'll only take a little bit. And now I'm at doing laser focused coaching, which I really like. And so do my clients. So instead of paying me $997 for 4 sessions for 1 month, which most people, well, not most people, some people definitely can afford it and even more. I should be charging 1,500, 2,000, but that's another whole thing. But I have laser focused coaching where it's $997 to work with me for 1 year in 15-minute segments. So
Wow, I like that idea.
yeah, so you phone me and I'll say, well, what's up? Or you can text me and say, I need a clearing. And if I get back to you, that's fine. If I don't, I'll do it at a distance. But I'm basically on call, but you get a 15-minute session with me at least once a week. And I give you homework. You don't do your homework, you don't get another call. So I really like that. So
Yeah, I
uh,
do too. It's intense, it's focused, and like you say, it's like laser focused therapy in a sense. Yeah,
it just like we don't have time to, you don't have time to tell me your story. Well, let's get to the point.
yeah,
Let's get it done. Let's get cleaned up. And here's what you need to do and check back into. It's like giving everybody homework in a loving way, right?
yeah. Well, most people's stories are just repetitions of memories, and memories, as we know, get rewritten the more we, remember.
That's
The
true.
more we remember things, the more we rewrite them, anyways. So
Yeah.
most of our memories, it's just BS. It's not the way it happened. I tell people, like, we're just going to start from today here. We're going to move forward knowing, like you say, what's up, where do you want to go from now? And I don't need to hear your story. I know your story. I can look at your chart and know what you're here to do. The trick is, like, you know, harnessing that energy that's flowing into you now, which
Right.
is all we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are stuck in your story, and I know that if you're dealing with demons and possession and all that, it's really, really scary shit. And you do want to tell your story because you think that it's the most horrible thing on the planet and nobody else could be suffering to the extent that you have it. Ain't it awful? And if you, Tyhson, don't have a silver bullet and shoot them all dead, and you can't prove to me that you can do this, I don't want to give you any money because I've already spent millions of dollars and people never clean it up because blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to tell you the story. Okay, I get it. This ain't fun. This ain't pretty, right? So tell me your story. And yes, you may have to tell me a story over and over again in order to clear the karma. I get that. But at some point, stop telling me the story. I got the story. You don't need the story. Let's leave the story behind because every time you tell it, at some point, yes, it's releasing karma by letting it go, right? By going over it and releasing and releasing. At some point, the story becomes irrelevant. Let's have a new story. And that's where
Mhm.
we really get to work, right? So I just want to, because this is sort of a new awareness for me, because I used to say, nah, don't tell me your story. I'm sick and tired of your story. But I'm realizing some people in really crisis. So now I'm sort of in tuning in to guidance. Do they really need to tell me your story again? And sometimes the answer is yes. They need to
Yeah.
burn through. There's something about being able to have somebody hear the story that helps them cleanse and heal. So,
Yes.
and
Yes. That's true. That's very true. It's like crying. Crying is so much more. Um,
yeah,
there's so
it's
much
like
more relief if
being
you can
hungry is
cry
to
in
don't
someone's
cry.
arms rather than by yourself.
Stop. Don't cry. Don't cry. Yeah, it's not helpful.
Well, I love crying if I'm able to cry in someone's arms.
It's absolutely. That's what love's all about. Which one were you saying about the energy? What was it? Where is all that energy coming from? Was that Pluto?
Well, the energy,
Where's that hug bug energy coming from?
the energy today is coming from Mercury and Jupiter. They're
Yeah,
making a
okay,
beautiful
that's what.
trine. And there's also a powerful Mars-Venus conjunction that's been activated by the moon. So
Yeah,
that's all of this wonderful amorous energy that
right,
we're kind of talking about right now.
right.
And I encourage all the Leos and especially the Aquarians. The Aquarians born around February 10th are also getting a direct hit of this Mars-Venus energy. So, yeah,
Starting in their eyes.
all of you Leo and Aquarians out there, open your hearts and don't be afraid to ask for what you want, because when Mars and Venus come together, they give an amazing ability to project a confidence and a charisma that's, especially in Leo, it's quite seductive.
Weren't you saying that that there's sort of there's an opportunity with the energies that are flooding in now, sort of for a relational cleanup, getting really honest and truthful with each other about what your needs and wants are. Did I hear that right?
Yes. And when Mars and Venus come together in Leo, it almost gives you a clear path into being able to express your wants and your needs and your longings, especially your longings, because Leo is such a romantic energy. It's such a energy that wants to heal and also teach. And in a way, you can think of Mars and Venus and Leo as teachers, and they're teaching you about love. And I would definitely encourage people in the next week to put your hands over your heart and connect. There is a brain in our heart now. They've discovered this. Doctors know about the,
And it's more
you know,
powerful than the brain.
yeah,
And,
yeah. And so put your hands over your heart and illuminate that incredible brain that is actually in your heart.
exactly.
I believe there's 40,000 neurons that constitute this heart brain.
Yeah, and if you want to get hold of me, I've created a heart, brain, gut clearing to bring
Ooh,
three brains together, right? Three brains is better than no brain, right?
wow, that sounds cool.
It is cool. That alignment is really, really powerful. So, get out of your own way and do the three. So your gut will take care of your emotions and your gut feelings and your digestion and how to handle information coming in. Your heart opens up, connects you to your guidance and to wisdom and to why you incarnated, and your brain just gets out of your way in the sense that you're not connected so much to your ego, and it goes into sort of neutral. It's there to, as your early warning system, that things are coming up that you need to pay attention to, but it's not longer running the show. The heart's running the show.
Right.
Not so much running the show, but just connected to the divine. And like you said, GPS being guided, right? Not running anything, right? Being guided by the greater forces of the universe, which you will learn if you phoned in and had a conversation with Kory
Well,
Varlen.
Tyson, what I do want to say, I notice we're getting close to our time now. We're moving from the new moon phase into the crescent, and the crescent phase, the generic meaning of the crescent phase of the sun and the moon relationship is about basically reframing your past. So yes, if you do want to look at some memories and do some memory work, you can do that. But what's really important to know now is your past is actually operating as a ghost, and you need to come to some resolution about the power these ghosts have over you. So when we move into the crescent phase, which is starting tomorrow for the next 2 to 3 days, it's time to absolutely start reformatting the ghosts that are in your closet and perhaps cleaning some of them out.
So is that a crescent in a C form or a D form. You understand what I'm trying to say?
All I know is that the crescent phase of the moon generically,
Is it like this?
it's the opening crescent.
Yeah.
It's the opening crescent.
Like the
So-
crescent
so-
moon in Islam.
Yeah, so what I would suggest is people really start looking at some of the ghosts in their closet, especially parental issues, and say, hey, this is my life, not my mom and dad's. And that's a key thing about the crescent moon cycle for all of us, is to make a distinction between mommy and daddy's stuff and your stuff.
Yeah, and don't forget the crescent moon is the basis of Islam, and it's the basis of Allah, and it's really the fundamental principle of Islam is there is no intercession between you and Allah or God. Nobody can become. It's a sacred relationship, and that crescent moon has to do with healing. So all the ambulances that are in Islamic nations have the crescent moon, which goes back to the Knights Templar, which were the healers of all those that were on the path to the sacred sites. So it's sort of interesting. There's so many similarities. You think the Knight Templars on one side and Islam on the other, but actually they're two sides of the same coin. They just don't know that yet. So stop worrying, everybody. You're from the same brotherhood, right? Christian, Judo, Islamic brotherhood. Anyway, we're near the top of the hour, getting very, very close, and nobody phoned in, so it's your loss. You know, we're back here at the same time, same place. Next week, every Monday at 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific time. If you want to get hold of us in the interim, don't forget you can have a free session from either one of us to start off, and then we'll go deeper, and you'll have to put some beans on the table to do that. But I guarantee you that it's worth your time and your money. And and don't forget, upcoming at 3 p.m. is Garden Like a Brew Show. So if you're not thinking about growing your own food in your own backyard, on your balcony, given what's coming like solar flares and all the craziness on this planet as to go through major transformation, you need to get out there and grow some food. Some food that has all the alignment with the stars, the moon, and all the planets that are for you, specially aligned to your biological needs when they're right for you to have the highest influx of divine energy coming through the food that you eat. And who doesn't want that, right? So here we are at the top of the hour. So Kory, what are your last words?
Well, I would just close by saying, enjoy the crescent moon that's coming. It'll start tomorrow and it'll be about 2 to 2.5 days worth of just beautiful unfoldment of your own path, and being able to separate yourself from your family would be something I would encourage all of us to look at. And just to know that the crescent moon is about, it follows the new moon, which is new birth, new beginnings.
Right. All right. Until next week, be healthy, wealthy, wise. Bye for now.